Hey everyone. So I decided to finally get off my butt and tackle the Star Wars sequel trilogy, although my bet in future years we're probably not going to be able to call it that anymore, but I also realized that in order to do that I'd have to rewatch The Force Awakens because I hadn't seen it one time since I made my original video on the subject. So I rewatched it, and my thoughts on it have changed somewhat because in my original review, I made it kind of obvious that I didn't think that, unlike the original trilogy, we weren't thrust too far into the middle of a story. But I've come to realize that statement hinges upon the fact that everything that we don't know in this movie will be explained in a future one. And usually that doesn't happen with Star Wars movies because, like, the example that I always use at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, where Leia says to Han, "I thought you decided to stay," and Han goes, "Well, the bounty hunter at Old Mantell changed my mind." What? You know? Yeah. And then also between Empire Strikes Back and beginning of Return of the Jedi, how do they know that Han was there, even though it stands to reason that he would be there because Jabba the Hutt is the person he owed money to, but yeah, so now I definitely feel like we are in the middle of the story, though I have a little bit more faith that things will be explained, even without listening to the novelizations of these movies, which I'm probably going to do, albeit after I finish watching them, partially because I only have the novelization for this one, right? And I also said that this movie, when I last saw it, didn't feel like a Star Wars movie. It felt like a regular movie with Star Wars stuff thrown into it. Now it feels like a Star Wars movie, albeit that's because I've seen Rogue One since my initial watch of this movie, and that I saw a little bit of the Mandalorian, where Carl Weathers plays at least a small villain in one episode. They might have done him for more than that one episode, I wouldn't know. But yeah, now this feels like Star Wars. And I also like how this time I was able to catch a little bit more about Finn's background, because I didn't really get the idea that he had been raised with the First Order from, like, birth, or at least as far back as he can remember, because he himself says he doesn't remember his family and he doesn't know what his given name was. So I'm glad that I was able to catch that, and I was also shocked that they revealed that the pilot Poe was alive before he and Finn encounter each other, which I found to be kind of odd because the scene there gives no hint that he's alive, albeit, you know, that would have ruined the tone of the movie if they had done that, but, you know, just found that a little odd on the rewatch, although I'm okay with the fact that he's alive, though I could have sworn that originally he wasn't supposed to be alive. And then, the confliction that's going on in Kylo Ren, now I know how to actually pronounce his name, / Ben Solo, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see the development of this guy, because even though he tricked Han to, you know, stepping so close to him that he was within reach of his light saber, you nonetheless could tell that there's a little bit of oddness going on in his mind. And, like, one of the first scenes we have with him on his own, he's like, "I feel the call to the light." So this is a very different type of villain. Although odds are he's not going to survive this trilogy, because given how much confliction is in this guy, I can't see it. Now I know what you're thinking. There was confliction in Vader. The confliction wasn't made clear until the last movie, and that hinged on the assumption that Vader, recognizing that Luke was his son, was starting to cause odd conflict in his mind, especially since Luke had demonstrated himself to be his equal, but the catch is, if you go by the novels, which, yes, I fully understand, are no longer part of canon, though they brought some stuff back. If you were to have read those, you would have learned that The Empire Strikes Back was actually not the first time that those two met. So, huh? Right. So it's not the same kind of conflict. It arose at the end for Vader, and it was more because of plot device. This... Well, okay, yes, it is plot device, but everything is technically a plot device in here. It's in a script, you know. But it's a different kind of conflict. It's there from the get-go. What? Like, the true villain is this Lord Scourge character who I really, really hope they describe more about, but I can't help but feel like that there's just something off about this character, like how he presents himself as a deformed being, and having the hologram being hologram the whole time, but not making it obvious that it's a hologram. Yeah, that still kind of gets to me, so I really hope they explain this character. Now, granted, they didn't explain the Emperor for the first two movies because you've only got a brief appearance of him in Empire, and I think literally one saying of him in New Hope, if I remember correctly, and it's extremely brief. Like, literally, they just say the Emperor is part of a sentence and it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So I really hope that that gets resolved. And then another thing that I noticed on the rewatch was that the base that they were firing the super weapon from, it wasn't a planet that they constructed within the planet. So that makes a lot more sense, because, you know, harnessing something with that much energy, in a way it kind of makes sense that the only thing that can tolerate that is another planet, you know? Yeah. Sure, the way that they blew it up was kind of simple, but the thing is, they didn't actually blow up the entire facility. They blew up a stabilizer within the facility, and because the facility had absorbed all the energy, it then took care of itself. You didn't have to destroy the whole thing, you just had to make it unstable. A little different than what we're used to. What else to mention? I don't think there's that much. Yeah. So I get that this was mostly ramblings, but I figured it was better for me to do this just in case I bridged any differences in anything that I say for the future videos. Oh, and has my rating for this movie changed? I don't think so, because unlike most people out there, I wasn't bothered by the similarities between this and A New Hope, and even then, on the rewatch, I didn't detect too many similarities, you know, they were just doing homages. Really. That's not a problem, so I'm not too worried about the legacy of this movie, and I trust Abrams to do a decent job with Rise of Skywalker. The real question is, how am I going to feel about The Last Jedi, because that's what I've got queued up on the laptop right now. Nah. We'll see. That's what I'm going to watch the second I turn this off. See ya.